Good morning, Mrs. Nelson's fourth graders. It's Monday. We're starting a new week. I'm so excited to be here with you again. Today, I want to remind you of just a couple things. So, on your Google Classroom this morning, you're going to see three things, actually, four. So, the first three things you're going to see is you're going to see Friday's reading. So we did our Zoom on Friday, and I forgot to post my YouTube video after that. So it was a little bit late. So watch Friday's reading before you watch this one if you haven't. Okay? So Friday's reading is on there. Also, you will find a Flipgrid. Now, Flipgrid, you go into Flipgrid and you push the big green plus sign, and then you can create a Flipgrid for us. So it can be a video, however long you want. And I'd like for you to share something with us, something that maybe you couldn't bring into the classroom or something that you've been working on. Just give us a little bit of sharing. Now, boys and girls, what that means for you is you can go and periodically check the Flipgrid and see who has posted and watch their Flipgrid. So everyone can watch each other's Flipgrids. And I will be looking at those and monitoring those as well. And then the last thing that you will see on your Google Classroom is a link to Mrs. Morris. And she is teaching you how to play the multiplication dice game. Now, that was that little pink packet that you got when you picked up your Chromebook. You had some playing cards, you had some dice. This is one of those games. So it's a super fun game. It's really good for practicing your multiplication facts. So check it out. And maybe that could be a game that you play today. All right, so I was looking through Aerith's birthday, and I want to get finished reading this by Friday. Now, there are 7 chapters left and only 5 days. So there's going to be a couple days that I'm going to read just a little bit more. So Friday we finish. That way, next week, starting on Monday, I will start the Stout-Hearted 7. Okay, so I'm going to start to read to you the Stout-Hearted 7. So I need you to look for your packet. Again, your packet came with your Chromebook, and it's called Stout-Hearted 7, and I want you to have that handy for when I start reading next Monday. Okay, next Monday, my friends. All right, here we go. Chapter 21, Discoveries. It was now a whole week since Aerith had first come to the fox's den. With a plenitude of food available, life had settled into a steady routine. Sleeping arrangements were something of a compromise. While the kits slept in their own heap of leaves, it worked out that Aerith slept there too. 16 paws, 4 tails, and countless quills found a way to be close without anyone's being hurt. What's more, everyone's sleep was sound. Aerith was the first to get up each morning. Even as the sun threw golden shafts of light over the white field in front of the bluff, he could be found scrambling toward the grove of trees. There, he breakfasted on tender bark, eating as much as he wanted. Only when he was fully satisfied did he return to the den to wake the kits. It was not an easy task. "Time to wake up, you slimy slug bugs!" he'd cry out, or something equally cheerful and inviting. Nimble was usually the first to stagger up. A very sleepy Flip followed. As for Tumble, he almost had to be dragged to his feet. Even then, he protested in his grumpy fashion all the way. Once the 3 kits were up, There was considerable yawning, stretching, and bumping, not to mention bickering. Aerith, meanwhile, snapped, ordered, cajoled, and otherwise insisted that faces be washed, fur groomed, and tails smoothed. Nimble had the most trouble with this, insisting she did not care what anyone thought about how she looked, that she was going to appear as she chose no matter what. Flip went the other way. He took great pains with his grooming, insisting that there was no way he would be caught dead, his unfortunate words, looking anything less than exactly as he wished. As for Tumble, he didn't care one way or the other, but simply went through the motions to avoid Aerith's barbs. Though it seemed to take forever, everyone was eventually up and ready. Then one of the foxes was sent out to the storage den to fetch breakfast. Being chosen and sent by Aerith was considered something of a privilege. Aerith tried to be careful as to his choice, rewarding now one, now another for good behavior, so no one was favored unfairly. Whoever went brought back just enough breakfast for the other two. Aerith's orders were always the same. Take only as much as we really need, he insisted. It has to last the rest of the winter. While the morning's breakfast was devoured, with much smacking of lips, wagging of tails, and snapping of bones, Aerith made sure he went outside. Try as he might, he simply could not abide a meal with the foxes. Neither the food they ate nor their manners, but had decided that they were not going to change. Protest was to no avail. Once he sensed breakfast was done, Aerith returned to the den. It was time for daily chores. Everybody knew exactly what to do, not that it ever went smoothly or without complaint. If Flip was supposed to tidy the bed, it almost never failed that Tumble or Nimble messed up his work. If Nimble was to smooth down the den floor, there was Tumble or Flip to track it up. Tumble, whose job was to remove the odd bits of bone and uneaten food, almost inevitably discarded something that the other two were saving. "You're nothing but a bunch of lazy-legged leeches," Aerith would inform them hotly. "Why do you always have to bother and bicker with each other?" The kits, who had grown used to the way Aerith talked and grouseled, paid little attention to him except to laugh. But once, when Tumble, and in imitation, actually called Aerith a pillow of potted porcupine, Aerith was beside himself with indignation. "You youngsters," he yelled, "are nothing more than a tribe of disrespectful regenerates. All of you should be turned in to the dead of winter to fend for yourselves. And then maybe your brains would grow as fast as your appetite, and that would make the world a better place." The kits just laughed. Once chores were done, and in the end they always did get done, they all went outside and began the daily search for the remaining unsprung traps. The search began with a discussion as to what areas of the field they should investigate that day and how they should do it. There was even Dimwood Forest to consider. Aerith, for one, was weary of the forest, fearful of what might be found there. While he was fairly certain the hunters had not returned into the field, Aerith could not be certain about the forest. The problem was, if the hunters had returned, there was no way of knowing if new traps had been set. Though he kept it to himself, Aerith had a distinct memory of the traps he'd seen under the cabin, the 4 additional spring traps and the one designed to catch a large animal live. From time to time, Aerith contemplated going back to the log cabin on his own. Once there, it would be easy to determine if the humans had returned. The idea was appealing. Besides, he had not forgotten the salt. Yet, It was the presence of the salt that held Aerith back. He preferred to keep that a secret. Not that he believed that the foxes had any interest in it. In fact, he was certain they would never understand his feelings for salt at all. Over the next 6 days, they did find traps, 4 in all. By Aerith's reckoning, that meant if the humans had spoken true, there were only 2 more to be found. In the afternoons, Aerith insisted that the kits take naps. This they did while he took a brief stroll back to the grove of trees, where once again he satisfied his own appetite. After nap time, there was dinner to fetch. The hours after dinner were the best. Snug and warm beneath the ground, feeling safe, their bellies full, the kits settled down. Every night, Aerith told the kits stories. Mostly, they were about things he had done or heard about. What they loved most were the exploits of Aerith's famous friend, Poppy. The kits loved the tales about the many battles she and Aerith had fought. With wide eyes and large ears erect, they paid close attention to them all. Indeed, they liked these stories so much, no one objected when Aerith repeated them, even though each time the porcupine told them they grew in length, facts, and complexity. So here's a picture of Aerith telling the stories to the kits, and the kits so excited to listen. In turn, the foxes told stories about their mother and how she hunted this or that creature. Though Aerith was not really interested, he listened patiently. Not so pleasing for Aerith to hear were tales about Bounder, the fox's father. Those stories seemed all alike to him, tales in which Bounder accomplished the most amazing feats with incredible strength and astonishing brilliance. "He's the smartest fox in the whole world," Nimble assured Aerith when the porcupine dared to question whether Bounder had once truly managed to open a steel lock on a certain farmer's barn using only his teeth. "How do you know it really happened?" Aerith asked. "Because Dad told us, and what he says is true," Tumble said, defiance in her voice. "Do you think he'd lie to us?" Flip demanded. "Snail sauce on snake saliva," Aerith returned. "I was just asking." At night, when the young foxes were finally abed and Aerith was at peace, he sometimes thought about how different his life had become, how crowded, how busy. From time to time, he also thought of his home and, in particular, of Poppy. It was a long while now since he had left his log. Aerith wondered if she'd ever puzzled as to what happened to him. Did she miss him? Was she worried about him? Did she regret ignoring his birthday? Just to think about such things made Aerith unhappy. Better to be here, he told himself. At least the kits are beginning to appreciate me. Early one morning, Aerith popped out of the den. He was startled to see 2 hunters walking about the field. Horrified, he watched as they moved along the trails the foxes had made. One by one, they picked up the sprung traps and stowed them in a bag. So here are the hunters in the field, and they're noticing all of the traps have been sprung. Aerith stayed to see if they would reveal an unsprung trap or if they would put down new ones. They did neither, but retreated back into the woods. The porcupine was not sure whether to be pleased by what he had observed. He could only hope that they had not touched the salt in the cabin. When he told the kits about the humans, they listened wide-eyed. "The danger isn't over," he warned. "Not yet." More cold winter days passed. There were good days and bad. Sometimes winter weather raged. Sometimes it was almost balmy. Even so, one more trap was discovered, leaving, by Aerith's calculation, just one more trap to be found. He was hopeful they would find it soon enough. One evening, 4 weeks from the time Aerith had first come to the Kits, right in the middle of what must have been his 14th telling of the famous battle between Mr. Okax, the great horned owl, and Poppy the mouse, a voice boomed down the entry tunnel. "Anybody home?" the voice bade. "Anybody care for some fresh chicken?" There was a moment of silence. Then Tumble leaped to his feet. "It's Dad!" he cried, and tore up the entryway. The next moment, his sister and brother followed. "Buzzard boozers on burnt toast," Aerith mumbled. "Bounder has returned." The old porcupine felt very nervous. All right, chapter 22, The Return of Bounder. We'll start this one tomorrow. All right, my friends. Also, make sure that you check out your email, your parents' email. I'm going to send out a message about all the things that I just talked about. Also, Mrs. Borms has posted a video, Motivational Monday, and it has a link, I believe, on the Facebook page. And also they sent an email out with that link. So watch that as well. So Mrs. Borm's message, listen to Friday reading along with this reading. Start making your flip grids. Make a good plan and come up with something fun for us to watch. And then don't forget to play your multiplication dice game that Mrs. Morris taught you. Also, don't forget to do your pages in math, practice your multiplication, read. Oh, I have one more thing. I only have about 5 kids who have typed anything in the journal entry. If you type in the journal entry, I'll write you back. I have about 5 kids that I've written back letters to. So if you're interested in getting a letter from me, type me something. It's dated March 17th, I believe, and just leave it on the document. You don't need to share it with me. You don't need to turn it in. Just leave it there. I check it every day. And if someone has written something, then I respond to it. All right, my friends, happy Monday. I miss you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.